Bien le bonjour and welcome to this sequel, or rather addition, to the video on the evolution of the limit break. I hope you watched the original video first, because I will not repeat what I already said there. I ignored some stuff on purpose, so I could cover them another day. But I've been told that I forgot to talk about a few actually relevant elements. Also, I bought FF16 on PC and finished it, so I'm going to cover its LB at the end. If you're just here for that, you can skip to the timecode on the screen, but right now I'll start with FF6. No, I won't talk about Terra's special ability, I'm keeping it for the video on the evolution of the summoner. I will stay on the topic of the desperation attacks and talk about two special cases and a half. I will explain the half a bit later, let's first cover Shadow. His desperation attack dealt direct damages like most of the others, but if the opponent managed to survive, it would be affected by a status called Sap. This negative status effect dealt damages over time, akin to poison, yes. Since the video was already quite long and almost no enemy could survive the direct damages of the desperation attack, and just triggering one attack was complicated enough, I prefer to trash that part. On top of it, before FF7, the icons wouldn't be displayed on the enemies and you couldn't check their status by hovering the cursor on them. Now let's cover the other special case and the half, Strago and his granddaughter Relm. I actually started to write a whole paragraph about them in the evolution of the LB video, but considering its length, I thought that I should keep it for the evolution of the Blue Mage. Then, the Pictomancer job was announced for the Dawntrail expansion of FF14. However, between Relm in FF6 and FF14, there never was any Pictomancer in the games I'm covering. Thus, I will cover both Strago's and Relm's desperation attacks here. They didn't deal direct damages, but inflicted the instant death status instead. Evidently, the biggest issue was that if the opponent was immune to instant death, you literally wasted a turn because there was no direct damages to compensate. Fortunately, Strago had his extremely versatile blue magic to compensate. Whereas Relm, she had the biggest magic attack potential. All good reasons to never use the attack command with those two. I was so focused on explaining my reasoning about FF1 that I completely forgot to cover three other important progression-related mechanics that can also be classified as breaking one's limits. And side quests to unlock additional weapon skills. It's a person commenting on the English version of the video who pointed these out, and I have to thank him for that. At level 75, you can unlock a new and alternative way of leveling up called merit points by speaking to the Moogle next to Maat. By the way, it's the same Moogle that unlocks the two other progression systems that I will cover later. After unlocking it, whenever you reach a level ceiling, any experience in excess is transformed into limit points. Yes, like limit break. Which is even more shocking to me that I forgot to talk about it. You could also manually choose to convert every experience points gained into limit points, but I wouldn't recommend it. Each 10,000 limit points, you get one merit point that you can spend with any job at level 75 in one of the merit categories as long as you are inside your Mog house. These categories can grant you general bonuses such as additional passive intelligence points, and can also directly improve jobs like increasing the monk's chances of counterattacking by a few %. Each job category and a few general ones have restrictions on the amount of points you can spend in them, therefore you have to plan ahead where you want to spend your merits. Fortunately, you can lower a bonus in order to increase something else if you want, but the merit points originally spent won't be refunded. Also, the cost of every bonuses keeps rising the more you level the same one. Still on the topic of improving jobs, once you reach level 99, you can unlock another enhancement system, the job points. By killing level 99 or higher enemies, you get capacity points alongside limit points. However, these points are totally exclusive to the job you gain them with, as opposed to merit points which are shared. And you need 30,000 capacity points for one job point. These job points are also used to boost different abilities of your job with increasing costs. They are permanent this time, but it serves a second purpose, the gifts. After spending a certain amount of job points, you unlock different bonuses, most of them being passive, like additional attack or accuracy points. But in the case of magic using jobs, it gives them access to spells they can't normally cast, and even some exclusives. Thus my comparison to breaking one's limits. Do you remember when I said that it takes 30,000 capacity points for one job point? Well, you need 2,100 job points to max everything out on one job, which means that you need to obtain 63 million capacity points. I do know that there's a special type of enemies called Apex that gives out a lot of capacity points, but it might still take time. I hope you love grinding, because the developers decided to add another layer with the master levels. After mastering a job by getting the final gift at 2,100 points, you can unlock a third parallel enhancement mechanic, the Exemplar Point. It's indeed an additional, yet basic leveling system, with each master level requiring more and more points to reach the next one. And the benefits are almost identical to a normal level up, meaning that your stats are overall increased. If I said almost, it's because in the context of the normal levels, the max level of your sub-job can't exceed half of your main job level rounded down. Whereas in the case of master levels, it's every 5 levels, and at the time of this video, the master levels are capped at 50. Which means that your sub-job level can at best reach 59. Even if it doesn't fundamentally change the balance in the endgame content, it shines a new light over some combinations, although it is rather limited and gimmicky. But the grinding stays horrible even after adding the special Locust type of monsters that gives more exemplar points. I wrote a really big part detailing many things, but I realized that I needed to explain so many other mechanics that it didn't seem to ever end. So instead, I'm gonna summarize this, and if you're feeling adventurous, you're free to check on BG Wiki or FF11clopedia. The majority of weapon skills are unlocked simply by increasing the associated weapon ability, like one-handed swords or clubs. But there are many skills exclusive to specific weapons, at least at first. With the exception of a few joke weapons and 2 families of ultimate weapons, you can unlock those skills to use them with any other weapons of the same type. Jobs and/or level restrictions still apply, but they all require you to complete side quests or activities, which are rather long and repetitive. Yes, more grinding. I won't sugarcoat it, they're not all worth the investment at all. Yet I unlocked them all because I'm that much of a moron. However, I hope that I did a decent enough job to make you understand the link with the idea of a limit break, even though, in the end, it's starting to become so diluted that just leveling up can be considered as a form of getting over one's limits. Ha! Do you remember when I talked about advanced classes in the first FF and that I considered them as the first occurrence of the limit break in the series? Well, I should have talked about how FF14 does the same with the jobs. Each of the original 9 classes of the game start at level 1 and have their own series of quests culminating at level 30. After that, you start the quest to unlock the job associated with that class, which grants you higher stats and especially exclusive active and passive abilities, making the original class obsolete. Yes, once again, repeat after me, like the advanced classes in the first Final Fantasy. I wanted to extend the FF14 part to talk about the concept behind classes and jobs in the game's reboot with the 2.0, most notably with the cross-skill system. But since it was taken away after the 4.0, I gave up. The limit break in this game wasn't really groundbreaking in terms of mechanics. You unlocked it rather early after reaching some part of the main story, subsequently causing 2 small bars to appear under your HP meter. You could buy skills to extend your gauge up to 3 then 4 bars, and they would fill during battles by doing pretty much whatever. I'm not kidding, only staying immobile during and out of fights didn't affect it unless you used a specific item. Hitting the enemies with your attacks, dodging or countering theirs, or simply suffering damages, all of that helped filling your limit break bars, and as long as one of them was full, you could trigger it. Once in the state of semi-Ifrit, all of Clive's means of attacking were enhanced more or less significantly, to the point of doubling your normal combo speed, as well as adding an additional hit for each attack, and making them all critical. His survivability was also improved in the sense that his HP regenerated over time and also when your attacks reached your opponents. Additionally, you were immortal since your HP couldn't go under 1. Of course, the LB state only lasted until all your bars were depleted or by prematurely deactivating it with the same inputs, but that still emptied the current bar. Considering the speed at which the gauge would fill up, it was actually counterproductive to hold it until the right moment, like in the other games. You could as well consider it a nice change of pace from the normal combo that really became really repetitive really quickly. The activation of the LB itself had a defensive and offensive quirk because the small scene helped you get out of an enemy combo, or simply reset your position so you could circumvent some animation locks, but it wasn't really the main incentive for using it. To put an end to Clive's section, I have to cover an accessory named the Berserker Ring, which granted you the offensive benefits of the limit break for a few seconds after performing a precision dodge. You had a rather cool albeit short scene in slow-mo if you succeeded, but when you realized that you had to dodge almost constantly during the game, it could get on your nerves after a while. Unfortunately, you weren't immortal and your HP weren't healed, but since it didn't deplete your LB gauge, it was fun to see your power increase for a short or long period of time, even outside of the true limit break. Last part of this video, your K9 or Lupine friend Torgal also had his own limit break. Like Clive, it was unlocked after you progressed far enough in the main story, and Torgal would transform into Fenrir or Semi-Fenrir, which would improve his abilities. However, outside of that very first battle where Torgal would permanently stay in his limit break state, you didn't have any control over its activation afterwards. On top of that, there wasn't a gauge you could track, so he had a tendency to trigger it in battle when it was probably full, and the effects seemed to last until the current battle was finished, or until it was depleted. I said probably and seemed because the information available on the internet didn't explain precisely how Torgal's limit break worked as opposed to Clive's. But my own testing in-game seemed to confirm that general consensus. After all this, I'm wishing you a good day, night, whatever, blah blah blah, subscribing and other social media stuff. Prenez soin de vous et amusez-vous bien!